All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking about a very real person and his thoughts, and doing this in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. Really, one of the smartest people I've listened to in recent years is this gentleman who broke on the scene last year. I did a couple of videos about him. My audience didn't seem all that interested in what he had to say, but I was watching this and I felt I needed to share it because this guy says a lot of things that I think about these days. And anyway, so I'm going to share his video. Hopefully, he won't mind me doing that. And if he does, I will gladly take it down. So here we go.
I realize that the shitstorm that we have just entered in, maybe in the last few decades, the unsustainable deficit and the groceries going through the roof and the fuel prices going through the roof and the dollar being devalued, the over excessive printing of money, the constant psychological warfare that you, that your kids, that your neighbors are experiencing daily through social media, through YouTube and television. And we talk about how manipulative news networks are. We don't really talk about how manipulative social media is. How artificial intelligence is making it so captivating and so addicting. It's making your brain want more and more of it. That algorithm is, to me, it is a machine of true psychological warfare. It is, I believe that it could even be argued in of itself a form of hypnotism. And it's difficult for me to want to post on these platforms because although I know I need a way to get to you and I know there's a way that we need to communicate, I feel like I'm serving the machine that I despise.
All right. He said something there that I think is really interesting about serving the machine he despises. You know, each and every day I do videos. I have over 4,300 videos currently in circulation on YouTube. I have 81,000 subscribers, and I'm getting maybe on some videos less than 1,000 views. Right. I should be able to talk about almost anything and get maybe 6 or 8,000 views on a video. So when he talks about the algorithm and manipulation, he knows what he's talking about. Of course, this is Oliver Anthony, if you didn't pick up on that. And I think he's one of the smartest people, smartest younger people. I mean, he's less than half my age. And I got to say that if we had a generation of people like Oliver Anthony, we could turn the music industry around. We could turn the country around. So anyway, let me share more of what he has to say. I'll post the link to this entire video because he says some stuff at the beginning about the fact that it's 1 year since he uploaded the song Rich Men North of Richmond, which became a hit without any help from a record label or a promoter or anybody.
Every time I upload something on one of these platforms, I'd just love to see the world go back to a time where we were really living and we weren't stuck in this sort of dreamlike state that we're in. I believe that social media and the internet in general it's almost taken some of us away from our own consciousness, from our own awareness of what's going on in the world. We truly are hypnotized.
Yeah. What he says about consciousness there is like next level smart. Because when I talk to people, oftentimes they're so engrossed in whatever social media platform that they're getting notifications from, and then I'm getting notifications from them. I started Patreon a number of years ago as a way to basically support myself because YouTube, they changed their algorithm, and this is even before the comments went off and certain things changed with this channel. But other creators were talking about this as well. But Patreon is like a 24-hour a day thing. I'm grateful for every patron, but it's just interesting because everybody wants to tell you what they heard about something. And, I have close to 500 patrons, and I try to explain to people, and this is people say, you should really open up the comments. Okay. Well, who's going to take care of that? I'm a one-man show, but his point isn't about what I'm talking about. His point is that this digital world, this digital landscape has already created a type of consciousness, and people are drawn to that consciousness and they become part of that. I think that's such a brilliant observation by Oliver Anthony. So let's continue here.
And now that artificial intelligence is creating music, it's creating art, where does it end?
It doesn't.
I think the only way that we ever return to normal is by exiting from this dystopian technological nightmare, this new form of war machine that has encapsulated not only North America or Canada or Europe, but it's in Russia, it's in China, it's now in the Middle East. There's satellites going up every day. And I don't think it's a secret to anyone that the goal of all this is to have every square inch of this earth connected. And these phones, like, ever since the Patriot Act, these phones can just listen to us. It's like, and we all talk about it and we all know it. We're so distracted.
Man, this guy says more in a couple of, you could do a breakdown of everything this guy has said. Like, take a sentence, do a video about it, take another sentence. The Patriot Act. I remember when that happened. And everybody's like, we have to do this because safety. Well, you know what happens when you prioritize security over everything else? You lose your freedom. And that's what's happened. And that was a gateway drug to all of the stuff that's happened since. And the technology is just making it so easy. This guy is trying to get away from everything. He is desperate for a life away from the chaos.
We're so lost. I'm afraid that we don't realize just how far we've went. I believe that we may even truly now be in a free fall state. And some of us are starting to feel the pains of that. It's hard to keep up with bills. It's hard. You can't afford to buy a house anymore. You can't hardly afford to rent a house. Everything's expensive and it's poorly made. And just the tail end, the lower class, the lower middle class are starting to feel that pain more and more every year incrementally. But I believe we will hit it. We will finally hit the bottom of this free fall state. And those of us who are still comfortable and still complacent and still able to just sit around and ignore what's going on, it's going to start affecting those people directly too. And we will have no plan. We'll have no idea what's even going on.
All right. What he's talking about, which I think is very important, is the level of complacency. People tell me all the time, so what do you think is going to happen with the election? All right. Now, I don't know. Some people think that if somebody doesn't win this election, for instance, if you're a Trump fan, people are, hey, if Trump doesn't win, the country is over. I don't know if it's over. I think what happens is it fragments more. And the states that are running separately. They're kind of running on their own, practicing federalism, the 10th Amendment, doing their own thing. Those states will prosper. And those states always pull the economic numbers in a better direction. Nobody talks about that. That who's pulling the weight when it comes to better economic numbers. The 50 state experiment is still working. It's the federal experiment that's no longer working, that we're united. No, we're a bunch of states, independent states. And I believe that's the future, is to be 50 independent states. And maybe if there's a common enemy, a real enemy, not one that Washington, D.C. tries to push upon everyone and say, we need to fight the boogeyman over here. If there's a true enemy to the Republic or to this collection of states, then we all team up and we have to deal. That's the only time we're united at that point. Otherwise, each state does its own thing, has its own economy, has its own independent government, because the states do. That's the whole point. So anyway, his desperation, his quiet desperation here, or somewhat loud desperation, I mean, I can feel this every day, what he's talking about.
This hurricane reminded me when I was a kid. I can't remember which hurricane it was. It might have been Hurricane Isabelle. We had a bad one that came through in like 2003 or 2004 through Virginia, and it was 2 days of the power being out. And I remember we went by the gas station to try to get gasoline for a generator, and there was literally people out fist fighting over a gas pump. Line wrapped all the way around the building. And I realized then that as a kid, or as probably a young teenager at that point, that our society is that fragile that we can go 2 days without gasoline and people are willing to fist fight at the pump over it. Imagine if you don't get groceries for a week, or if the power grid goes down for any period of time. And it's hard to have a conversation about that without sounding so conspiratorial or so like, oh, it's the endo days and the lizard people are coming and all that. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying the system is already so fragile, and now it's so expensive, and the food is so bad for you, and our public education system is such an embarrassment.
Wow. Wow. I mean, how many things did he just hit there? The education system, the power grid. You may think the power grid's fine. Tell people in West Texas about that, and they're going to tell you the power grid wasn't fine because those windmills all got frozen. But it's not just the windmills, not just the push for green energy. It's just that the infrastructure is crappy. All right, let me keep going here.
It is a predetermined lesson plan on some Chromebook that is sent to whatever teacher, and there's really no teachers truly teaching anymore. It's like everything in our country sucks. And I think we've lost our pride in our country. We've lost our pride in our traditions. People don't grow gardens anymore. They don't raise their own animals. People don't really do anything for themselves anymore. Everything's just a phone call away. It's just an Instacart or an Uber ride or an Angie's List away. And so it's like, if we want to get away from food being bad for us and being expensive, if we're tired of paying so much in taxes, and if we're tired of living in this system where public education and college education manipulates our kids and turns them into kids who are confused and angry and bitter, if we feel like social media is controlling us and manipulating us and making billions of dollars off of us, I feel like social media is literally creating a machine to destroy us with the money that we give it by giving it our attention every day. So not only are we weakening our minds and destroying our minds, not only are we giving up our traditions and our values, we're getting disconnected from our kids and our wives, and our marriages are shit, and our families are shit, and our households are shit because we can't stop looking at these stupid phones.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. The truth is there. The truth is right there. And I think I'm going to stop right there because, I mean, I could go through the whole 18 minutes worth. I started, I think, around the 8 or 9 minute mark. And again, this guy says more stuff in a few minutes than any of the politicians are saying. I mean, you get little snippets here and there from the more independent minded people, but he's hitting home run after home run here. The education system. Um, yeah, this thing here, right? As much as it's convenient and helpful, I tell people all the time, I need to get off the phone. I get messages from people and I say, look, you and I have gone back and forth now all day long on this thing. All right. I got to make dinner. All right. I got to vacuum. I have to, you know what I mean? I have to go out and take the dog for a walk. I have to do, well, make sure you take your phone in case somebody calls or you get a notification on something. Don't want to miss that notification. It's crept in. It's crept in and it's become a crutch for people. People don't talk to each other. Even adults now are sitting on a couch with their phones. One has a phone on one end of the couch, the other person has a phone on the other end, and yeah, they talk to each other, but it's just death scroll, the whole time. Just okay, got to keep scrolling. There's a funny meme. There's something to look at, and I do it. I'm just saying I do it, but then I realize that I've been doing it for a half hour, and I could have been reading a book. I could have been playing with a dog. I could have been doing a number of things. I tell people, I have to pay attention to my wife. I haven't been paying attention to her for about 2 hours now because you keep sending me messages back and forth. And again, this isn't a knock on the patrons on the channel. You guys are the best. You support this channel, and I have those conversations at will. I answer those questions when I'm able to. But it's amazing how time consuming and crazy things have gotten. Days seem to race by. I mean, I'm approaching a certain age and I hate that. And I've noticed that things are speeding up. Things are speeding up. And I think what this guy here, Oliver Anthony, is trying to point out is that we're in a system, we're in a matrix, and many of us are here voluntarily. Many of us believe that it's fine, that most of it is okay, and this is for our good. This technology is for our good, and there are benefits to it. He mentioned Uber and having people deliver stuff, and yeah, home cooked meals. Remember those? It's just my mother we never went out to eat. Rarely. Like New Year's, we went out to eat. I mean, I'm from an Italian family, so it was my mom cooked and she was a great cook. My grandmother was an even better cook than my mother was. And they didn't have to take anyone out to eat. I mean, if you'd go to a restaurant, it was a very big special event. Now it's like, okay, we've got to go out to eat because we're too tired from all the scrolling and all of the social media. We wasted all of our time, texting and getting into a keyboard war with somebody. And I mean, X, even though it's better than it used to be, it's still, it's a cyber wasteland where you could just spend your entire day just trying to make your point about something. So anyway, Oliver Anthony, he's an old soul, man. You listen to this guy, I was going to say kid, you listen to him, and there's more wisdom there than the entire music. I don't know anyone who's smarter. There are a couple of guys I know, a couple of rock star friends who are definitely into this and onto this. But the way he articulates this from a working man's perspective, a guy who's literally out in the woods who wants to just enjoy the earth and live his life apart from the noise and the chaos. This is just a brilliant rant. The title of this is My 1 Year Update Since Rich Men North of Richmond, a song that contained so much truth and threw the entire political system under the bus. The Republicans, Democrats, everybody under the bus. And they all kind of deserve it. Yeah, there's a lesser of two lessers out there. Definitely. Pick the lesser of two lessers. But the problem is still up ahead, regardless of who you pick. You may think the world is going to end if your candidate doesn't win. I would say it might be a temporary reprieve, but it's like inflation. They say inflation is coming down. Yeah, instead of 9%, it's 3% now. But you're still gaining weight. You know, you were gaining weight at 10 pounds a month. Now you're gaining weight at 3 pounds a month. And they're telling you, oh, it's so much better now. Prices are still going up. They're just not going up as fast as they were going up. So, anyway, I think this guy is really smart, filled with wisdom. He's kind of like what the Proverbs talk about. It's not about knowledge, it's about wisdom. And this guy's got it. So, anyway, I figured I would share that with everybody. Before I go, I wanted to share an album I just got. And this guy is a great songwriter. You may know Jack Tempchin because he wrote this tune called Peaceful Easy Feelin'. He's also written songs for Johnny Rivers and many other people. Glenn Frey was basically his go-to. I think he wrote We Belong to the City as well with Glenn, but he is just a phenomenal songwriter. Vocally, might not be your cup of tea. There's a lot of we were talking about wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom in this album, and a man kind of ending his life and talking about a lot of those issues that are important to him and seeing the world through that lens. So the album's called More or Less, and it's really good stuff. I enjoy it. It's kind of laid back. And you have to listen to it in context. I would listen to it from start to finish because you'll get, you know, you'll get a better experience if you do it that way. All right. Thanks for watching, folks. Please, if you can, subscribe to the channel. Also, Patreon, YouTube memberships, and buy me a coffee, which I got some great buy me a coffees the last 24 hours. I guess people have been enjoying As the Journey Turns. We'll return with another episode of As the Journey Turns at some point because there'll be a topic that I haven't covered, or again, some court stuff will leak out and I'll have to cover that because I'm sure it's not going to go away anytime soon. So thanks again and God bless. See you soon.